looks like apple juice. And smells like apple juice. And it tastes like apple juice. Man! This is the weirdest cup of coffee I've ever had. Oh, hi. Back again, are we? Yes. Jordan here, Cursey Jordan. Thanks for joining me again. Well, it's certainly been a bit of a hiatus. I think the last video I uploaded here was, what, February of last year? You may be wondering where I've been all this time. So let's get back to it. Okay, so it's been a while since we've visited this game here. Where the heck did we leave off? Oh yeah, that's right, our last episode. It's been a year and a half. Our last episode, we finished the 10th and final mission for the Gorgonite campaign. So finally, after a very long wait, we are at long last getting to the Commando Elite campaign, which I think I've mentioned before. I personally prefer. I think it's a lot more fun. It's also a lot more funnier. I mean, bear in mind, of course, you know, this is obviously a kid's game, so where they've tried to tone down the violence a little bit, despite the fact that most of the commandos use guns. But you know how it is, cartoon violence and the like. But I think they've also tried to tone down the commandos, you know, rough and tough kind of attitude. So they're actually a lot more kind of these goofball cartoon characters, you know, just making a lot of really silly Looney Tunes style gags and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty funny. But anyway, we'll get back into it now. So we're back at the screen that we had to choose the commandos, or the Gorgonites, when we first started this game series here. So again, we'll put it to beginner again, just for the sake of saving time here. Expert is, you know, it's the later levels get hard enough on beginner. Expert is pretty tricky, but and instead of choosing Gorgonites, you see, it's, remember, at the, I didn't show it this time, but the opening cinematic shows them both going at each other's throats, and then depending on which side you pick, obviously they sort of win that 50-50 draw. So instead of the Gorgonites this time, we're gonna go Commandos. Alright, Chip Hazard, aka Tommy Lee Jones. His voice work is so awesome in this. Go get him!
Apology accepted, Gorgonite leaders.
Snap!
Fellow commandos, show yourselves! Comrades, our ranks are thin. And it appears we are not alone in this stronghold. But we've been outnumbered before, and that's just the way we like it. Soldiers, we're burning daylight here. It's time we cleaned house. Let's roll!
Okay, so we're back onto our campaign screen. You'll recall from the Gorgonite campaign that basically the way that the entire campaign sets up is you start at one point and you literally make your way around the winding street all the way to the end. And you can pick your missions in any order you like, but they have to be a part of that campaign. The first campaign to start only has the single mission, as with the Gorgonite campaign. Actually, you'll notice actually that aside from the obviously the locale, the characters that you have on your team to use, and the individual objectives of the mission, a lot of the missions seem to kind of mirror each other. For one thing, numerically they're set up the same. So there's 10 missions, and it's split into 5 campaigns. A campaign of 1. Then the next campaign will be 3 missions, then 2 missions, then 3 missions again, and then the final campaign is just one last mission again, as was with the Gorgonite campaign. And you'll also notice that a lot of what you're asked to do in the mission is kind of the flip side of what the Gorgonites had to do. So whereas in one of the Gorgonite missions, the mission objectives might have been to destroy one of the Commando Elite's communication devices, in this game, or in this campaign, a mission might be to assemble the parts needed in order to build the communications device. Stuff like that. But anyway, let's do it. Homestead Havoc. Kevin Butler. So blast a secret passage through the linen closet and destroy the civilian communication device. Again, yeah, I think this is kind of the same as the Gorgonite, only the Gorgonite objective was to activate the communication device in this instance, which it was like just to get onto the internet or something like that. But having said that, though, even though some of the locales are similar, the level design themselves will be totally different. So fear not if you were worried about, like, oh, I've played this level already. The levels are actually different. It's just sort of the design and look of them, but the level layouts and the item placement and how you accomplish objectives and everything like that, all of that is totally new. So here we go. So again, I don't want to spend too much time going over the basics already. If you want to know the base mechanics of this game, you can always refer back to part 1 of the series, because it works obviously exactly the same way, but I'll just go over some very basic rudimentary stuff really quickly. So left clicking on a character obviously selects the character there, and if you left click again somewhere, you'll move them to that point. And if you hover over something, then the character that you have selected will interact with them in some way. So here, pick up these items, or here, attack this enemy or whatever. And if you want to deselect a character, you can either hold down Shift on the keyboard and left click again, or an easier way, I think, is just to right click off of the character somewhere else. That's a quicker, more efficient way to do it. And also, I think it's a little bit safer. I've mentioned in a previous video how this game can be a little bit finicky about accuracy of specifically where you're pointing, and sometimes it might happen where you mean for to select off with a character and select a different character, but instead you select just off to the side or something like that, or it looks like you're clicking on what you want, but the computer doesn't interpret it that way, and so it ends up moving your character to that spot, and you might move him into harm's way, you might move him into, you know, a battle you don't want him to be involved, you might move him right into a trap, or through the pathway of a projectile or something you don't want him to. So if you just right click, that is the most surefire way of making sure that you're actually deselecting. Again, to select multiple characters, as you probably know from any RTS, really, you can just hold down Shift and again left click one by one, or you can do this sort of elastic band technique, and everything inside of that rectangle that you draw will be selected. Each character shows their default item. Any upgrades to that weapon, their default weapon, I should say. Any upgrades to that weapon will be shown in that portrait as well. And then every character has one backpack slot. Only one item can be carried in it at a time. So I'll show, for example, here, Chip Hazard. I'll pick up this cherry bomb. If I want to use it, I can click once and then where I want to throw it. And again, I can right-click to deselect that. Or if I simply want to drop the item in place of another one, because if I try to pick up this key, I'm not able to. So I can just double-click on the cherry bomb and it drops it on place. And then if you want info about the characters, and again, the characters mimic the Gorgonite characters in certain ways as well. But their overall combinations of stats there's a change on the variations within them. The only real example, though, I think, is Chip Hazard. Chip Hazard and Archer, the two leaders of the two teams, are both the team's most, rounded bread and butter type characters. They're basically not great or terrible in any real respect. They're both about the same. They're not identical, though. There are a few other differences, but I think, for example, Archer has slightly better range, and I think slightly better vision as well, I think. But other than that, they're pretty close. And then, you know how with, like, the Gorgonites, Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. Again, it'll be different combinations, but the same sort of principle applies. So, for example, a character like Punch It from the Gorgonites had the best throwing arm, and he was also, he also had the best defense, but he was horrible when it came to speed. So now with the Commando Elite, take a character like Kip Killigan, for example, who we don't have access to yet. He's going to be one of those, the ones that we have to unlock. Again, mirroring the second campaign for the Gorgonite mission, how those 3 missions in that campaign was all about one by one rescuing one of your fellow Gorgonites so that you could add them to your team and then use them in subsequent missions. We're going to have to do the same with the Commandos. But so, again, take Kip Killigan, for example. Kip Killigan, like Punch It, also had the best throwing arm, but then to show that he's not just a clone of that character, he actually had really, really crappy defense, but he had really good speed, right? So, it's an interesting way of mixing it up. So just because you've played with the the Gorgonites doesn't mean that you know how to play as the Commando. They all have different combinations of strengths and weaknesses, and so you'll have to kind of relearn what the best strategies are. Anyway, I've talked long enough. And again, like I said, if you really want more info, just go back to video number 1, part number 1 of this series, and I'm sure I go over it in more detail. But anyway, let's see. Who has? I think Chip probably has the best throwing arm out of these characters. I think that's unfortunately one of the few stats that isn't shown here. Sometimes there'll be a description. If you want to actually read their bio, it might make mention that they have a good throwing arm or a bad throwing arm. And another stat that they don't talk about is the rate of fire. It talks about their range, their attack range, and their attack power, but it doesn't talk about how quickly they attack, which also is a factor in terms of how much overall damage you're doing, DPS. But I think Chip has probably a better throwing arm than the other characters I've got access to right now. But we can experiment with this a little bit. We'll try with Chip here. Anyway, this first enemy we're encountering is Freakenstein, and he's got really bad vision, so we don't really have to worry too much about whether a character has bad throwing arm. But we got here Brick Bazooka is also a ranged character, and he's got really good defense. He's got the best defense, health points, right? And Link Static, kind of like with the Gorgonites Ocula, Link Static is probably going to be the character that we end up replacing the most because he's very weak and dies very easily. However, he also has amazing vision and he's pretty quick too. So Link is going to be sort of our scout. One of the downsides to that, though, is that unlike Ocula was the great spy character because, he had great vision range, he had great attack range, and he was really quick. He was the fastest character as well. Link Static has the best vision, but he's a melee attack character, so he's got no attack range. He also is the weakest character, I believe. Attack power is, pretty bad. Ocula also was the worst Gorgonite, but he had a super, he had the best range. So oftentimes, if you just brought in your melee characters and your other, stronger characters in first, you could kind of protect Ocula hanging off in the back. Link can't really do that. I'm really actually going to probably go out of my way to not use Link even to attack at all for very much. Maybe in the earlier levels because it's pretty easy. It doesn't really matter too much. But yeah, it's good to keep a brick up front here. And I see that I didn't even direct Link to attack, but because he's got such good vision, he just kind of went and did that automatically on its own. But so we'll give him the battery there. Again, remember the red batteries give a minor health boost. The yellow batteries are a moderate one, 50%, and then if you can encounter a large green battery, that's a full health refill. Alright. Again, max team size is 3, so we can only have the 3 characters at a time, and we get new recruits from our toy box here. You see we can't recruit anymore because our team is full. Anyway, moving on here. Let's get Brick in the front because he's going to be our tank. Take the most damage. And we'll use the key here to open the door. Let's get Link here just to look around, scout around. Again, remember with the Fog of War here, it's really, really easy actually for characters to remain hidden around these corners, even when you think that you can see pretty good. Shoot! See, Brick's throwing range is so bad that Punchit saw the attack coming before he was able to get it off. Alright, we'll get another brick here. And so that's why our stupid firecracker totally flew over his head. Okay, what do we got here? Slow. Really? Is that the only character? That was the only character in here. Okay. Well, okay, so this guy here, again, remember, gives us a recruit to our toy box. And, let's see. He hasn't taken any damage. That's impressive. Alright, we'll give him that, and we'll give him this. These switches here, this is funny. We don't really have to do this, but you can activate the toilet. And it flushes. I don't know. It's a kid's game, whatever. Toilets are funny. These guys here, again, remember, we can toggle the switch so we can open this door and close it. And sometimes you're able to trap enemies right in the doorway and kill them instantly. So we'll see if maybe we can manage to tempt someone. Bear in mind that that affects you as well. So if you're caught... Gotcha! If you're caught in the door, then you get killed instantly as well, so... And remember, explosives can actually go over walls and obstacles and things like that, so it's useful that way as well. So Brick had really bad throwing arm, obviously, as we saw with that encounter against that Slam Fist. So I think I called him Punch It earlier. That was a mistake. I meant to call him Slam Fist. So we're only going to have him carry the Firecracker, and we'll switch it off to another character should we need. We'll move our Link static up slowly, just to make sure we don't rush into something. Okay, we need a ranged character to take care of this, so we'll use our Chip. He's got better range than Brick. At least I think he does. What's his range? 6. Bricks. I think Bricks is the same too. Oh no, yeah. Okay, so yeah, I was right. Chips is better. Oop.
Reporting for duty. You called. I read you. Heading now.
Ooh, okay. So those are, remember, our weapon upgrades, and every weapon can be upgraded up to 2 times. Ooh, okay, there's a Insaniac. So I think that's all that's there. So we'll just go in here. And now that they're taking the damage here, we can bring in our Link as well and try to help out the fight a little bit. And then over here, that's a clone item, so any it increases your max team size and also gives you an immediate clone on the field of whichever character picks it up. So I think I'll get my Brick to pick it up, but first, I'm going to do a couple things. So first I'm going to get this Chip to go back and pick up that battery. And maybe I'll get my Brick Bazooka to pick up the red battery. Remember, the red batteries gradually regenerate over time. The other colors do not. So it's important to try to keep your team at full health as often as you can manage it. And we'll give him this other firecracker here. Bring these guys over slowly. And use our Link static to make sure. Okay, so we've got... See if we can tempt fate and get him just a little bit closer there. We don't want to risk that Insaniac seeing us, though. So we'll bring our guys over here. And we'll throw some firecrackers over the wall here, just to help weaken him a little bit first.
Expect no mercy. Expect no mercy.
Okay.
Reporting for duty.
And then
Roger that.
should have finished him off. Yeah, he's almost dead, so we'll just use our
Commander
chip here
Hazard,
to...
reporting for duty.
There we go. And let's bring in our link here just to make sure there's no one in the back there. Okay, we're good. So, we will clone our brick, and we'll give the new brick, we'll give him both weapon upgrades. Why not? Give our link the cherry bomb, because I think he's got probably the better throwing arm. And we got another battery here. Does anybody else? I think everybody's like pretty much full health. Chip is slightly lower, but we can just give him that red battery again. No sense in wasting the yellow battery, because he's not hurt that much. And which brick? Okay. Again, remember, if you got multiple characters selected and you just once click on any of their character portraits, they get highlighted in red. So if you want to, you know, discern specifically which character is which, that's the one that I want, because he's the one with the empty backpack slot, so I will give him that weight. And remember how this weight system works here is if you can put a weight on one of these pressure plates. That's the only way to get one of these doors to open. You can also alternatively have a character stand on the pressure plate, I think. Yeah, you can, but then, of course, as soon as the character moves, closes again. So it's better to use the weight if you have it. So we'll put the weight there. Right. Link. Whoa, boy. Get our Link the heck out of here. Even though it's only Ocula, and Ocula is really weak. I mean, Link is really, really weak too, so... But we'll give him the yellow battery and save that green battery for later. And we'll use ranged character to take out this TNT, blow a hole in the wall. And I don't think... I mean, this is the last room, so you know there's going to be guys hide in here. So I don't think there's really much sense in bringing in our Link here first to scope out the area. So let's just go in guns blazing, I think. We'll just, you know what? We'll just give our battery to that guy, because we're almost done here anyway. We're not going to need to come back, I don't think. Alright, rush him. And remember, the enemy toy boxes are like enemy generators, so if you don't take them out quickly, they'll just spawn new enemies, so they're important to get rid of. And we're at the very end here, so we can just... You blow up that TNT, and that, by proxy, will blow up the computer.
Roger that. Clear.
There you go.
Goal achieved, soldiers! Though our numbers were few, we managed to clear the sector of all Gorgonites.
Tommy Lee Jones just cracks me up. He's fantastic in that in that role. And look at the classic homage to that classic image. Okay.
The humans of this planet would be easily controlled if it weren't for the do-gooder Gorgonite trash among them.
The Gorgonites will protect those who own them at all costs, Commander!
Well, it's going to cost them plenty. Link static, front and center!
Sir!
Eddie, soldier! It's crucial that we get a lock on the primary location of Gorgonite infestation in this vicinity. I need you to somehow track their AI chip signals.
No problem. Instant access to the world.
It's that easy.
Suspiciously high infestation at Athlete Peaks, Commander. They must be aware of our artillery needs and are trying to ransack our available weapon supply. Infestation is also abnormally high at the Peterson and Rumsfield residences, sir, near the top of the valley.
The elevations of those structures is ideal for establishing a base of operations and a warehouse of confiscated artillery.
Sir, commandos track to each of those locations.
Gentlemen, we are on alert. At those locations, our enemy is gathering their strength, and it is there that we shall break them. Hit!